There's a plan in the UN right now called the Arms Trade Treaty, and we have some indication that President Barack Obama is going to sign the treaty in the near future. So before we get into the details of what the treaty would actually accomplish, let's talk about what it does not accomplish. Representative Steve Stockman, he's a Republican congressman from Texas, believes that the intent of this, the sinister intent of this arms trade treaty, is to ban guns in the United States. And so he wants to talk about why that should not be allowed, what should stop that from happening. And it's not legislation, actually, it's divine intervention.
No.
So first, he says he's very clear about what we should take from this arms trade treaty being discussed. He says that it is now beyond time for the United States to withdraw from the UN as a result of this being discussed.
Oh, first of all, I'm actually kind of pissed that he found out about our plot.
Yeah.
You know, obviously this was the backdoor way for liberals to take everybody's guns away, and there's only 300 million guns in the country, so it was probably an easy task. But it was going to take
a 3-day weekend.
Right. Well, that's what the black helicopters are for.
Yeah.
And that's why we needed them in their Hobbit homes.
Well, but we can't get them into the Hobbit homes until we took the guns. So this is step one.
Oh, yeah.
Agenda 21 is step 2.
Stockman figured it out.
Yeah.
Would these guys be as worried about the helicopters if they'd been a different color?
If they were pink?
Like a little less threatening, to be honest.
Just, I don't know, like an earth toned.
Yeah. It's like if a camouflage helicopter was coming at me, I'd still be worried, despite the fact that it's not black.
Just as worried.
Yeah.
And by the way, aren't our helicopters black? Black Hawk Down?
Yeah, I'm sure most helicopters are black. They can't be seen at night. It's like there's a host of reasons to make helicopters black.
Yeah. So Stockman goes on. He doesn't think that guns are just protected under the Second Amendment. He says that we should be against this treaty because they're a gift from God himself. He says, the right to keep and bear arms is granted by God and protecting from government aggression by the Constitution. It is not subject to the whims of global totalitarians massed in New York City.
Oh, is that where we're starting the helicopters, in New York City?
Well, that's where the global totalitarians meet regularly.
Oh,
so,
right.
Obviously.
At the
in
United
San
Nations.
Francisco.
Right.
But the funny thing is, the people who run the world are in New York. They're on Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
But these clowns never protest Wall Street. They're like, oh, the totalitarians are coming with helicopters for my guns. No, they're not. They're coming for your money. They're coming for your wallet. And you're such a sucker. You don't see that coming at all. Meanwhile, in fact, your entire Republican Party is protecting those guys.
Exactly.
Ironically, Representative Steve Stockman is on the side of the global totalitarians. Anyway, and by the way, why would they give a damn about your guns? They already have your money. The whole point of taking away your guns is that you can't resist when they take your money, but they've already got it.
Exactly.
Also, this was a statement from Steve Stockman. As you saw, there was the sick in there because he can't even do the statement right.
Yeah, exactly.
The right to keep and bear arms is granted by God and protecting from government aggression by the Constitution.
Who has time to revise?
It's as if they're not that bright.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get to the core of it.
Yeah.
Really,
It doesn't do that, of course. It does not ban guns. The entire purpose of it is reining in the illicit international trade of conventional arms, from small arms to battle tanks, combat aircraft, and warships. Now, yes, they do say small arms there, but it's about international trade of small arms, which is massive, and Steve Stockman probably has no idea about how much of that goes on.
Well, look, man, I didn't know they were taking away our warships.
By the way, I think small arms in this context, I don't know, I think it means like bazookas.
It might mean RPGs.
It could. I mean, we sell a lot of rifles internationally, and we're not the only country. Multiple countries.
Right.
France has a big small arms industry.
But I mean, conventional arms, from small arms to battle tanks. I mean, I don't know. These are weapons of war.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, no. Wait a minute. We can't go any further without noting that God did not give you a right to guns. When the Bible was written, there weren't any guns. Okay. When Jesus was doing his Sermon on the Mount and he came from Nazareth, he didn't come with an AK. Okay, there was no such thing. How could God have granted you that in the Bible if at the time, like if they were like, all right, you know what, Jesus says we totally have a right to an Uzi. Anybody know what an Uzi is?
Well, you have to read between the lines. When he threw the money changers out of the temple, it was at gunpoint. They wouldn't have gone willingly. They're too powerful.
So that's interesting connection right there, because it turns out Jesus was actually worried about the money changers, not the people coming to take your guns. In fact, he willingly went to be crucified, right? It's not like Jesus was like, "Are you coming to crucify me?"
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, the Good Samaritan actually was going to go on his way, but the injured dude actually had an AK. So he had to stop and help him. He was stuck at that point.
No, but he actually believes this. He thinks that God has given us. Look, I'm an agnostic, so it's hard for me to divine literally what God intends. But I just don't even understand where they make this stuff up from. But in their minds, they're positive that whatever their Republican talking point is, God must mean that.
Exactly. Yeah, and look, really fast, one of the reasons why we might want something like this is so that we'll stop arming like rebel groups in countries that 10 years later we end up going to war with. Like in Afghanistan, for instance. We might have had an easier time against some of these rebel groups if we hadn't provided them with such high-powered artillery. But also, just in case you still have some worries that God or not, this arms trade treaty is intending to take away your guns, the State Department has already put out a statement talking about protections that need to be in it, these red lines, before the president will sign on to it. They say, the Second Amendment to the Constitution must be upheld. There will be no restrictions on civilian possession or trade of firearms otherwise permitted by law or protected by the U.S. Constitution. That seems pretty clear, although I guess it does require you to do some reading. Steve Stockman, apparently not a big fan.
Yeah, look, it bothers me that the State Department even has to bother explaining that and addressing these guys.
Well, it's good that they did. I mean, it certainly helped us. By the way, Steve Stockman won 71-27. This was his big return to Congress. Mm-hmm. He'd been in Congress in the 90s, and as you may remember, Cenk, he was defeated by old friend Nick Lampson.
Oh,
1996.
right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Nick Lampson used to come on the Young Turks all the time back when we were a radio show.